being recorded.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Jonas, Program Director for the Goering Center. Welcome today. I got to ask you, has a topic ever been more relevant to our businesses, to our personal lives, to our professional lives? The answer is no. So it's well recognized that culture, and Judy and Jill, if you don't mind, if you just want to hit mute for just a second, there's background noise is an issue with us. It's well recognized that culture, the hard to articulate but perfectly understood fabric of our organizations, is a primary determinant of our company's success. And in normal times, whatever that means, how we communicate has the biggest influence on our culture, both positive and negative, right? But still, in normal times, it's really, really hard. So throw in a global pandemic, racial unrest, political polarization, the fact that many of us shut down our businesses, started our businesses up safely, in some cases changed our product lines completely for a period of time. And we've all been hit with so much this year that we no longer can live under the illusion that we are in control. We are all strapped on for a bumpy ride. And being in this ambiguous space causes tremendous stress, and some of us handle it better than others. That's compounded by the fact that we're working remotely, and communication, while greatly enabled by technology, is also really hindered by it. So we're in a new era, and we can either choose to use the stress to come together to advance our missions and our goals, or we can let it tear us apart. I would say that if we just lagger somewhere in between those two places, we're not going to be on top regardless. So if you're with us today, it's probably because you recognize that, and that you believe communicating better and building a strong culture is fundamental to your success. So let's get going. All right, before we dive into our content today, I want to take a second to acknowledge our sponsors. We could not provide the programming that we provide to you, often free or greatly reduced prices, without the folks here listed on this page. We have First Financial Bank, RSM, and Cushman & Wakefield are our sponsors today. And I want to acknowledge and thank all of our corporate sponsors, and I'm going to ask all of you to acknowledge and thank all of our corporate sponsors, because throughout this time of great change, they have stepped up to the plate and without any hesitation, recommitted their financial support of the Goering Center. And so we owe them a great deal. So thank you very much to all three of these listed here and all of our other 30 plus corporate sponsors that support us. So this is a relationship that is long-standing. Later in this program, we're going to hear from three people from Bessler's Auto Parts. John Bessler, Aaron Bessler, and Katie McGrath, their Director of Human Resources. And the Besslers and Katie, when some others from their team, went through the Communication and Culture Institute last year and immediately took their new skills and put them to work and made tremendous inroads to some of the issues that they were having culturally. And I will say, and they will tell you also, that it was that work that they did over the last year that prepared them to weather the storm of 2020 with real grace. I'm not saying it was easy, but they were very well prepared to approach it in the way that they did. But first, it's my pleasure, they'll be on later, but first it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jill Greer and Judy Ellis, both of Scroggins Greer. So as a family business, Scroggins Greer has been a core member of the Goering Center for very many years. And that relationship, as it often does, has evolved. So their subject matter expertise in Scroggins Greer does many things, but with Judy and Jill, their focus is on training and development, and particularly in the area of organizational development and helping companies build outstanding cultures through great communication. And so their experience with us has evolved over the years from member to volunteer, where we tapped into their subject matter expertise at programs like the Next Generation Institute. And then about 3 years ago, they went to work and created this very unique program for our members. It recognizes the unique needs of family businesses, but in addition to what family businesses need, all private businesses, all businesses need this skill building. So with that, I am going to shut up and turn it over to Judy and Jill, and you are in well capable hands. I'll be back a little later today. Judy and Jill, take it away.
Thanks, Lisa.
Well, Judy and I are really excited to be putting on this institute. This is the third year that we've done the Communication and Culture Institute, and it's really one of our favorite times of the year because we really enjoy just helping other companies and forming those relationships. So like Lisa said, this is probably the most important year to come to this institute. I was just recently reading a couple of articles, one from the Harvard Business Review that was talking about when people are suddenly forced to work remotely, total motivation drops. It said by 17 points, the equivalent of moving from one of the best cultures to one of the worst cultures in the industry. And that was so striking to me because I thought, even if you've done all this work to build this great culture, everything can suddenly drop. And that's when you really need those skills to be able to bring things up and to increase that motivation. And then just today, I read an article from Robert Half that was talking about what do we need to know as we are coming back to work. And the lesson number 4, they said, was you will need to become an expert communicator, which I thought, okay, well, then we need skills to do that. And lesson number 7 was your team will need new soft skills. And just everything I'm reading is talking about how important this communication and culture is in the current environment we're living in. So just a little bit about Judy and me and our company and where we came from. We actually started as an accounting firm, but we've done communication and culture for 35 years. And you might be wondering how in the world those things go together. It is a little surprising, but we actually are a family business. It started with my dad, who 35 years ago had this vision to positively impact people in the business world. Now, he was doing that in the national CPA firm where he was working, but eventually started to realize that in that environment, he couldn't be the husband and father that he wanted to be. So he left the national firm, joined a local CPA firm, and went there with this vision of modeling a business that thrives while putting people first. The problem is the business he came into was neither thriving nor putting people first. I mean, it was really kind of a mess. Some of the problems he encountered when he got there were, this was an accounting firm that was 6 months behind on tax returns, which if you know anything about accounting firms, that's not a good thing. They had bills due to them that were years overdue. Cash flow was atrocious. Employees were grossly underpaid. People were dissatisfied and suspicious of my dad, why he was coming there. And there was just conflict rampant among the staff. My dad realized this place needed a total transformation of the culture, and it seemed overwhelming. But he realized all you can do is start biting off pieces that you can chew. And so he started making changes, like foregoing his own salary to give raises to the people so that they would be more satisfied. He looked at the client list and referred problem clients to other firms so they could spend their time dealing with the clients they could really serve well. He reduced the amount of overtime people were allowed to work because they were working like crazy, working themselves to death, but not meeting deadlines. It wasn't worth it. He cast a vision that said the reason we're here is not just to make money, but to help people with their accounting skills, and so forth. So he made all of these changes. And as you know, when you make changes that you intend to benefit people, it still doesn't always go well. And that's what happened for him. Things didn't get better at first, they got worse. They lost staff, people were resistant to the changes, and my dad really started to get discouraged. But what he describes it as today is it's kind of like when you're trying to break the sound barrier. The closer you get to breaking the sound barrier, the louder it gets, the more the plane shakes, and the more you think you're going to die. But the solution is not to pull back, it's to throttle forward and break that barrier. And so that's what he did. And eventually things did turn around. They went from having people resigning right and left to people writing notes saying, you know, I love working here so much that even if I won the $170 million Powerball, I wouldn't quit my job because I find purpose and meaning here. It wasn't just staff that noticed the difference, but clients did too. And they noticed that it was a different kind of firm and started to ask my dad to consult with them on culture and quality of life types of issues. And he always says, if they trust you with their money, they'll trust you with anything. And so he's gotten to consult for 35 years, not just on finances, but also on culture, communication types of issues. Now in 2009, I joined the company. I had been a teacher for 8 years. I taught 4th grade and got pretty burnt out on the stress and conflict I experienced in the education world. And so I decided to join the business world where, of course, there's no stress and conflict. Which is not true, but the good news for me was when I joined the company, there was a firm called Perfect 10 Corporate Cultures which had been hired to come and teach us at Goering Company skills for how to deal with stress and conflict instead of running away, which was exactly what I needed. It totally changed my life, both at home and at work, totally changed my relationship with my dad as we learned skills for communicating with each other. And we were so inspired by all of this, we started talking about how can we work together to bring this to other people in the business world. So over the years, a series of mergers have happened that have allowed us to do that. The first was in 2014, Goering Company merged with Scroggins Associates. We became Scroggins Greer, which gave us a bigger platform from which to serve. And then in 2016, Perfect 10 Corporate Cultures, the company that had taught us those skills that changed our lives, merged in with us so that we had a full-fledged culture department. And then just last year, Pathway Guidance, which does strategy and leadership development, merged in with us as well. So we can now offer a full suite of services, not just financial, but also to help companies with their communication and their culture. So we're really excited to be inspiring change in that way. And I'll let Judy introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Judy Ellis, and I started with an interest in working on these kinds of issues as an undergraduate at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. What I found was that as I moved along in my career, I started at Procter & Gamble in the finance organization and ended up working in HR and corporate communications, was that the people side of the business was always drawing me in. And what I see is that that's one of the biggest yet untapped areas for business performance and success, is really getting our people engaged and motivated so that they can help serve the objectives of our business. So what I love about my work with Scroggins Greer is that we are able to easily teach transferable skills to business owners and leaders that can make a difference in their business. And you'll see towards the end of our presentation when we interview a family business that we think has done a stellar job of implementing those skills and taking them and running with them. So that's me, and that's why I'm excited about being here today.
Thanks, Judy. And now it's time for all of you. We need a little bit of participation. So if your screen's set up like mine, there's a chat box on the lower left-hand corner, and we're going to ask you to chat an answer in. So find that chat box. And here's my question. What was it about communication and culture that made you interested in coming to this overview today? And you can just chat in, a couple of word answers, but what is it about this whole topic of communication and culture that intrigued you and made you say, this is something I need to attend? Is it what Lisa was talking about, that this current climate, the current events are making you think, I need to take a closer look at this? Or maybe there's certain communication issues that you've encountered. You can look at some of these answers here. Someone saying other people's perspective is always interesting. Somebody saying it's always important to understand how to communicate with our employees. Culture is so important. Hard to keep in mind where you are in the day-to-day business needs. Always looking for ways to improve. Curious for new ideas. Yeah, one about maintaining confidence of the people. Communication is always critical. These are great answers. What I'm seeing is a lot of focus on the people. And this is often the answer I get to this question of why should we talk about communication and culture? And people give me answers about the people that they work with. And what I found is this, and maybe this resonates with you. For most of us, the people we work with are both our biggest inspiration and our biggest stress. I mean, what would it be like to have work without people problems? I mean, most of us don't even know what that would be like. The thing is, we have to learn how to communicate with others in a healthy way so that we can be able to do our work efficiently. Now, there's a premise from which we operate, our company operates, and also a premise from which we base this institute that we do. And that premise is this: all people are born with the potential for greatness inside of them. All people, all human beings have that potential for greatness in them. And it's not the job of a leader to put that greatness in them. It's the job of a leader to create an environment that's safe enough for people to bring that greatness to work, an environment where people are allowed to be themselves and bring the fullness of themselves to work. And so that's what this Communication and Culture Institute is aiming for, is to help you to create that kind of environment where people can bring their greatness to work. So Judy's going to talk for just a minute about why creating that type of environment matters, that type of environment where people can bring their greatness to work.
Yes, and the reason it matters is because, as I mentioned earlier, people are one of the biggest levers or drivers of our success. But what we find is that, unfortunately, many people are not engaged, which means they're not bringing their full selves and they're not operating at levels of productivity that we would like as business owners. If you look at the graphic we have here, it represents the results of an annual study that Gallup does, 30,000 employees around the world, where they are self-reporting about their own levels of engagement in the company. And you see there that we have, in the average company, only 1/3 of the employees typically are engaged. And that means really highly productive, committed to the team, which we've kind of demonstrated with them all rowing in the same direction. Then you'll see in the middle of the boat, in the light blue, that about 51% of employees report themselves that they are not engaged, which means they're present and they're productive only about 2/3 of the time that they're at work. But guess what? As business owners, we're paying them for the entire day, even though they're reporting only 2/3 of the time are they actively working on productive things. And the back of the boat, the characters in orange, are what's really concerning, is that about 17% of employees report that they're actively disengaged from the work that they're doing, which means they're there, they show up every day, but they're unhappy. And as you can see that last figure, they are, some of them, actively working against other employees. He's about to bash someone with his oar. And as we said earlier, the sad thing for us as leaders and owners is that we're paying the salaries of all these people that are on the boat. So what can we do to help employees feel more engaged? Because there's a great cost. What do you think are some of the costs of disengaged workers? You can put that in the chat box. What kind of things or ways do you think that shows up when an employee isn't really engaged, actively engaged? What might we see? Yeah, I'm seeing morale is down. We're losing productivity. Exactly, errors and rework. There are actually 60% more errors are made by disengaged employees than engaged ones. We're losing talent. That's a very big one. That's actually the number one people look for a new job is company culture. 47% of job seekers say that they are leaving their organization and seeking another one because of a bad company culture. And do you know the number one reason why that is? It's a poor relationship with their immediate manager. So all the results are showing that when you don't have engaged employees, it costs you, and it causes your good people that are engaged to want to leave. And someone else has chatted in that it actually also harms your reputation. And that's important because these workers who are disengaged are causing a ripple effect in the organization that we end up paying for, and it can hurt our overall reputation. One of the things I'd like to talk about as well is that there's benefits if you pay attention to your culture and really work on improving it. And this study that we show was an 11-year study done by Cotter and others at Harvard Business School, where they studied over 200 businesses in 22 industries. And you'll see that stock price growth was increased 74% in companies that were considered not as good a culture, but in companies with better cultures, their stock price growth went up 901%. Workforce growth went from 36% to 282%. Revenue and also their profitability numbers were significantly increased. And what I'd like to point out about this is that if you were insulated inside these companies, you might have thought that your company was doing well. I mean, if your revenue growth was up 166%, you might imagine that you're doing well financially. But the issue is if you had a better culture, those companies on average were growing 682% there. So it shows that this isn't just a warm and fuzzy, nice thing to do by paying attention to culture, but it actually results in better financial performance. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Jill, who will pick it up from here.
Okay, so I think Judy has established that creating a healthy culture is important. But the next question is, what is a healthy culture? What does it look like? And we have to back up even from that and say, what is culture? And the way we define culture is this: the thousands and thousands of one-on-one interactions that happen in your organization day after day. If the sum total of those one-on-one interactions is toxic, then you can imagine that your culture is going to be toxic as well. Whereas if the sum total of those one-on-one interactions are healthy, then your culture is going to be healthy as well. Now, that tells us a couple of things. And the first is this: it kind of debunks this myth that culture is just something that affects me, that's something I'm thrown into but I don't have any control over. Because if culture is formed on all of those one-on-one interactions, I have control over my one-on-one interactions. That gives me a lot of power to say the way I choose to act in each of those interactions I have each day has an effect on the culture as a whole. But the other thing that tells me is this: I need to know how to interact in a healthy way in all of those one-on-one interactions. And so that's what this institute is all about, is teaching what are those values that need to be present in each of those one-on-one interactions, and not just what are the values, but what are the skills we need to bring those values into being. Because it doesn't do any good to talk about all these values, talk about words, and not know how to put those into practice. And so this institute is really based on hands-on practice of how can we use these good skills for communication to build that culture that we all desire. So the way the Institute works is it is 6 weeks, and each of the weeks is based on one of those values that's needed in a healthy culture. So you can see the 5 values needed are respect, trust, truth, courage, and resolve. And then, of course, the last one is sustainability. How do we get all those values sustainable and ongoing? So each week we cover one of these topics, and it is every other week. So though it's 6 weeks, it's every other week. And so the first value we talk about is respect. And just think about that for a minute. Respect has to be the foundation of healthy interactions. Have you ever worked with somebody you don't respect? Or have you worked with somebody who doesn't respect you? It doesn't go well. I mean, you might be able to get things done at gunpoint, so to speak, but you're not going to create anything sustainable without respect. Well, here's the good news. We can actually use skills to build respect. And that skill we need to know is how to listen well. And so in this first class, we teach the skill of listening, which you might think, I know how to listen. I've been doing it for X many years I've been alive. But have you ever actually taken a class on listening? Because it's a skill we use all the time, and yet we haven't been formally instructed. And so the first thing we're going to learn is how can we listen well to others in order to inspire respect. The second value we need in those one-on-one interactions to make them healthy is trust. I mean, think about that. How much brain space and energy is wasted when we don't have trust? When we're operating based on suspicion, and we're reworking and fixing mistakes and not knowing who's doing what, and not sure if people are going to honor their commitments. I mean, this is a lot of wasted time and just grinding that doesn't need to happen. And so the second important value is trust, and there are skills we can use to establish trust. There are actually skills we can use to get real commitments out of other people. and skills we can use to make sure that the commitments we make are also real. And so that's what we learn in that second class, is how to build trust in that way. Now, the third one is truth. We need to have truth in our one-on-one interactions. And if I could see all of you today, and if I could ask you to raise your hands, I bet all of you would raise your hand if I asked the question, have you ever had a false assumption or a misunderstanding get in the way of your work? We've all had that, but that doesn't need to happen. What if we were able to have good dialogue skills and good thinking skills that allow us to get to the truth? That's what we learn in this class, because there are actual skills we can use to do that. And that involves, identifying stinking thinking bugs in our thinking and exterminating them, and evaluating the objectivity of the things that we believe, and using good dialogue skills to clear up false assumptions and get to the truth. The fourth important value is courage, and this is the courage to speak up at the right time to the right person. Not just taking those issues we don't want to deal with and shoving them to the back of the fridge where they get green and hairy and moldy, but instead to have the courage to speak up and deal with them. And we can have the courage when we have those skills in our tool belt. When I don't have to go into that confrontation wondering what's the right thing to say, but when I have a skill for knowing what to say, that's how I can have that courage to speak up about the tough issues. The fifth important value is resolve, and this means being able to resolve conflict. And so there are actual skills we can use to resolve conflict in a healthy way, not in a way that's going to create more conflict. And so in this class, we learn about how to deal with our own distress responses and the responses of others, and then how to go through a healthy process for resolving conflict. And then the sixth thing is we need to make this sustainable. It's not good enough to just have these things that we've talked about one time. We need to have a plan for how we're going to roll this out in our company and make this sustainable. And so in this sixth class, we begin to develop an action plan. It could be a communication plan, a culture plan, a family council, or a family charter to help us figure out how are we going to make this sustainable in the culture. So if those things are things that you would like in your culture or things that interest you, then we encourage you to come to the Communication and Culture Institute. You will leave with several things. Like I said, this is all about how communication can either create or destroy a good work culture. So we're going to talk a lot about that over the 6 sessions that we have you there. Each session is 4 hours long, and so that's plenty of time for us to learn skills and practice them. And that's the second thing you're going to leave with, is to acquire and practice the communication skills needed to create a performance-enhancing culture or change the behavior that's contributing to a dysfunctional culture. We are going to spend a lot of time working with each other to practice these skills so that each week you'll be able to leave ready to do something different in your culture, because you will have a ready-made skill that you can go use right away. The third thing is we are going to begin to design an action plan that you can take back and use with your teams. Like I said earlier, it's not good enough to just talk about these things. We need to have a plan for how we're going to carry that out in the culture. And so you will leave by starting to design that action plan. And then fourthly, you get one private consultation with Judy and me to help you operationalize your action plan. So after those 6 times of coming together and all talking together and working together, we'll then plan a private time for Judy and I to come out and see your company and kind of help you personalize that action plan. I do want to show you the materials that you'll get in the Institute. You'll get this nifty little binder that has a book for each of the weeks. So here's the Respect binder book, and it just has places for you to take notes and keep track of all your learnings so that you can have a reference for your desk to remember all of those skills going forward. So we are really excited about what we have to offer. We've had such good results, and we really enjoy helping people with their communication and culture. And what we have for you next is a testimonial from Bessler Auto Parts. They are a group of people who came to our institute last year, and we were so impressed with the way they really put these skills into practice and saw amazing results at their company. So Judy's going to interview them and give you a chance to get to know them too.
Hi, so joining me, I have John Bessler and Katie McGarr. We were hoping to have Aaron Bessler as well, who's the CFO for Bessler. Oh, Aaron's here. So all of you all are muted. So if you could unmute your mics, John, Katie, and Aaron, I'd appreciate it. It looks like they're having trouble unmuting. Lisa, I don't know if you're on and you can help unmute.
I am, so I'll go in and unmute them from the tool, but if you guys joined audio by your phone, you're going to need to hit *6.
Thanks.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear
Can you
Aaron.
hear me? *6.
I hear John. Katie?
All right.
We don't hear you yet, Katie. Try hitting *6. Well, we'll get started because John was our first person up. As Jill said, they all participated in last year's Communication and Culture Institute with us. And if we had gold stars to give out, we would have given them out to Bessler Auto Parts because they quickly enacted, it seemed like weekly, everything they learned, they went back and enacted in their companies. So John, one of the first questions I have for you is just if you would share what really drew you to the Institute.
Yeah, for sure. And just so everybody knows, instead of gold stars, they throw candy at you. We had candy thrown at us. So what drew us to the Institute, you know, we were kind of in a process where we had some toxic people in the organization, and you know, we had just made a decision that our focus for the year was going to really be on improving our culture and just making our culture better. So, you know, naturally, when we joined the Goering Center, the name Culture and Communications kind of seemed like something that might fit in with what we were already trying to accomplish. So that was kind of it. We had made a decision that we were going to make culture our #1 priority. We came to this session. We liked what we heard, and we decided to sign up.
Thank you. And I think it's so significant that you signed up and also signed up your almost entire leadership team, many of whom were new, and your HR person, which Katie represents. So Aaron, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what's something significant you learned during the Institute and how did you apply it back at work?
Yeah, so my background is I did about 9 years in public accounting. I was a manager at a regional firm, and I just joined the company last April, so about 14 months now. So, you know, I have had the traditional soft skills training about how to manage people, how to get people motivated, et cetera, but none of it really dealt with dealing with conflict. So, you know, the Institute really helped me better understand other people's perspectives coming from a different place. And, you know, not everything is a black and white decision. And I'm a pretty analytical black and white thinker. So it also helped me understand how I was being viewed, because I have a strong personality. I'm a really quick thinker. I say whatever I'm thinking. I have no problem with conflict, but other people were taking me the wrong way, and I was coming off as rude unintentionally, stuff like that. So it really helped me understand how other people, you know, sit on information, process information. They might not be able to respond as quickly as I'm thinking. So it really helped our leadership team become more cohesive. So like I said, I've only been with the company 14 months. I think Katie's 16 months. A couple other people on the leadership team are either new to the company or new to the leadership team. So really helped us in general learn how to communicate better with each other and how to properly have conflict, because, you know, conflict is a good thing as long as you're being respectful and you can get to better decisions. Another thing it helped me with really is you know, my personal life. So you know, some of the things covered are how people deal with conflict, and the way I was approaching my wife when we were dealing with conflict was the opposite of what probably I should have been doing, because that's how I would have approached myself. So it really, she's one that has to sit on things for 2 days, and I just want to like, come on, let's just, get over it. And so it really helped me with her as well. So not only did it help me with the leadership team, me being new, coming in like a bull in a china shop, and speaking my opinion, very outspoken. It helped me in my personal life as well. So.
Thank you, Aaron. So I'm hearing that you kind of had that black or white thinking style, and what you learned through the Communication and Culture Institute was more that other people don't all react and think in the same way that you do, which allowed you to get into them and to deal with issues and confront them in ways that felt more respectful for others, and hopefully even for your wife. That was a nice, very nice side benefit. And
Yeah,
Katie was laughing during that time. So let's go to Katie.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
so
good.
Katie, you saw some of the changes and have talked about ways that helped you as you interacted with the leadership team. But I'd like to ask you what you felt you learned that was the most significant by participating.
So there were 2 values I took away from the Institute. The first one was reflective listening. And to Jill's point, we all consider ourselves as good listeners, but I have never taken a class on actually listening. I have a lot of just impromptu one-to-ones with our employees. They want to come and talk about their issues, what's going on, but it never got to the root of the actual problem that they were trying to talk to me about. So with reflective listening, you learn how to respond to what they're saying, and they would talk to you and say, so what I'm hearing you say is X, and it's a deep dive on issues on how they feel about a company change or a coworker or their immediate supervisor. And also I want to say it's helped with gaining trust on both sides. The employee trusts me because they know I'm actually listening and I care, and I'm going to do something or do my best to help them with what's going on. And then the other value I learned was courage. So I don't consider myself a shy person, but when it came to the leadership table, I was just didn't talk, didn't share my opinions. I said sorry all the time for no reason. And the courage session really hit home for me because it helped with speaking my mind, respectful confrontation, gaining feedback, giving feedback, and clear expectations and clarity is 2 very important things to our leadership team. So it helped, beat down the barriers for any confusion, just with everyone speaking their mind.
Thank you. Important what you're saying, Katie, because sometimes people have a misconception that working on culture or communication just means we're going to be nice and baby people and be sweet all the time. But we learn respectful ways to have the courage to confront issues that we need to confront, and maybe we're not sure how to confront them. And so I'd like to turn that back to you, John. I know one of the things you've talked to us about is how that Institute gave you some courage to make decisions that you were thinking you probably needed to make, but were a little hesitant about. Can you talk about that and some of the results you've seen in your organization?
Yeah, for sure. So we, during this course, we had some longtime employees that were hired on by my father. They were very close with my father, and they kind of had a, almost a cloud of untouchability around them. So, during this course, we kind of knew deep down in our heart that there were a couple people that were just not happy working for the company anymore. They were in positions that just they were not effective. They weren't happy. We weren't happy with them, but we were kind of tiptoeing around because of the personal connection. And what ended up happening is during the courage course, I think right after, Erin and I looked at each other and just said, she's got to go. And we made that decision. We really talked it through. We helped her with finding another job, and it ended very, very well. We noticed that the people around her had one of the lowest engagement scores in our company. And shortly after she left, we saw that was probably the largest improvement in engagement survey. We use a program called Amplify. So when I say measuring our engagement, we had a tangible score, and we saw that it drastically improved when she left. Another kind of unintended consequence was another employee that we had that was one of my dad's siblings, was one of the more toxic people in the company. And just due to the family nature of things, and I'll preface this by saying I had fired her husband several months prior. So she was very, very toxic. Her relationship with my father had been strained. And because of the courage to let the first person go, I think she saw some writing on the wall. She understood that she wasn't happy. She left. So kind of the same thing happened. Engagement went up. The performance went up. Her and my dad mended their relationship, and it really worked out the best for everybody.
That's a really nice ripple effect, that by gaining new skills to deal with these kind of difficult and hairy issues, I'm hearing that in addition to making tough decisions for the business about personnel, it helped untangle some of those difficult family relationships that needed to be addressed. And it's been very encouraging to hear how you've applied those skills in the business and seeing the impact both personally and professionally. How would you say COVID-19 and all the crises and changes that caused for your business, did you find these skills were helpful in managing and navigating through that conflict?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the topic that everybody's pretty interested in right now. So, from our experience, COVID hit us really, really hard at the onset. We're in the automotive recycling business, so we depend on vehicles being on the road. When they wreck, that's where our supply comes. That's also where our demand comes from. So, all of a sudden, when the vehicles on the road were down to about 40%, not only were the vehicles on the road at 40%, but also people could essentially drive down the expressway, typing on a laptop, eating breakfast and drinking coffee, and they still wouldn't wreck. So that kind of, it didn't help. So kind of what the culture and communications course helped us with was, we made a very conscious decision at the beginning that we were going to get to the bottom of what our plan needed to be, and we were going to survive no matter what. So we had some really, really hard discussions. We met every single day during the crisis with our leadership team. We decided that quite a few people just needed to go regardless of coronavirus. We had kind of put up with some mediocrity, and we said it's really not fair to our A players if we keep the C's, because we risk everybody losing their jobs. So we really put emotions aside. We just communicated very, very well. We were very honest with each other. We got to the root of what the real issues were, and I think we made some pretty impactful decisions. So, on the backside of this, we're still tracking to have our most profitable year in company history. We had our most profitable month ever in May, and we're on track to even beat that in June. So, it's been a really cool thing, and throughout this whole thing, one of the things we keep saying to ourselves is, why did we wait for a crisis? But one of the things that crisis did was it forced our hand, and having these communication skills Some of the stinking thinking bugs that Jill had alluded to earlier, and the reflective listening, and just really getting to the root of what issue we were trying to solve, really helped us set up for success, not only in the present, but for the future.
And I just want to also add that our industry as a whole is still down. So it's not,
wow.
We're growing during this time. We're doing it, and we're communicating very frequently with our whole team about where we stand, and the industry as a whole is still down quite a bit.
Wow, that's interesting. So even at a time when the industry is contracting, you're saying that putting this focus on the right things has caused you to keep making good strategic decisions, which are still leading to growth. I think that's pretty incredible. And I see Lisa has joined us, so I'm gonna thank you guys, Bessler. I'm sure we'll be communicating more. We appreciate you sharing today, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who's going to open it up for more questions from our participants.
Yeah, but I would encourage the Becklers to stay on. Yeah, no, don't go away. Don't go away. We got I know the first question we have ready to tee up is for all of you. So when you think about your team after the Institute finished, what did you do on a regular basis in terms of checking in with each other? So you didn't slide back into old habits.
Are you specifically referring to just during the coronavirus crisis?
Well, if you want to separate it out, I mean, you finished the program, what was it? It was midway through last year. So you didn't have too much time to ramp up before we were dealing with the coronavirus. So maybe touch on both time frames.
The person who asked the question said any period, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll just I'll go into both. So kind of right after the Institute, we kind of made a conscious decision that we were going to continue to work on these things. So we have one-to-ones where, myself has a one-to-one with everybody on the leadership team, and so does Aaron. And, we really started just focusing on using these skills to improve, to have better communication, and we kind of opened that up to everybody in our whole company having a one-to-one. So that was something that we hadn't really done in the past. So we started doing a very good job on the leadership level of communicating, but where we were really missing out was down below that. So as we kind of taught, as I taught my direct reports what I was doing, and they had gone through the course too, they started kind of in turn doing that with their direct reports and really focusing on some of the skills they had learned to just improve together. Another thing that we were working on with Scroggins Greer was coming up with our own program that they were going to help guide us through so we could teach these skills to every single person in our organization. And kind of during when we were talking, that's when the coronavirus hit. So, a lot of things kind of got put on hold just for the sake of going forward. But yeah, that's kind of what we did. And then during the crisis, we set a meeting that was every morning, first thing in the morning. And we just looked at a certain set of numbers. We tracked how much our revenue was declining, and we just continued to discuss and plan and say, if revenue drops to this amount, here's our first plan of attack. If revenue drops to this amount, here's our next plan of attack. And we just kind of went through that process of just knowing what we were going to know. The uncertainty of the situation was I think what was causing the most fear from people. And so instead of being scared, what we did was we just said, hey, look, if these unknown things happen, we have a plan. And that really just helped kind of settle everybody. We communicated that to the whole company. So it wasn't just our leadership team. We were sending out weekly updates, and then if anything important happened, we were sending that out, more frequently, and just kind of letting people know, here is what our plan is. We're going to cut hours, and here's why we have to do it. The reason that we let these people go was X, Y, Z, and just really expressing why we were doing things to the whole company kind of led to just a stabilizing calmness that we had when the rest of the world was kind of running around like crazy. So
right, what a great point. And I'm sure that included some element of two-way dialogue, right, where you gave people an opportunity to question or get clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we made a pretty conscious effort too, that you know, to just come on site, just kind of walk outside with people and say, hey, how you doing? You know, how's your family doing? What are you worried about at work? And we really just continued to ask people how they were feeling, where they were at this moment, and just kind of kept doing that throughout, and made sure everybody was on the same page.
Yeah. I have a question for Katie. Katie, no doubt you've heard some feedback from the employees at Fessler Auto Parts that they see a change. Were you transparent that you had taken some class from somewhere and you're, you know, implementing the things you learned? And if yes, did they inquire how they could develop their skills in this area?
Absolutely. We've had quite a few employees asking, what is all this reflective listening about? Can you teach me? I want to do it at home. A lot of them are actually very interested in taking it home with them, but using it at work as well.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, I'll share a little bit about my experience if we have time at the end. But I want to get to Marissa's question. It sounds like you all took this class together. Is that typical that a leadership team attends the class together? I'll let the Bessler speak. And Judy and Jill, if you want to come back on camera, and we'll introduce David Miller from our team at the Goering Center here in just 1 second. But Besslers, go ahead. Why did you choose to do it as a leadership team?
Well, we chose to do it as a whole leadership team just to really ingrain it in our culture. And we figured that, you know, if the whole team took it, for the most part, everybody that came had direct reports. And if we started walking the walk with each other, they would start walking the walk with their direct reports, and it would just, you know, continue the trickle down effect from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
and out
sure.
of all of the companies in our class, there was only one that only had one person there. I think it was 3 to 7 for the other companies.
Yeah. But I will tell you the other makeups of the organizations that have gone through the Communication and Culture Institute. In one instance that I can recall, there were 2 departments that were really butting heads on a regular basis. And so their CEO thought, hey, those guys, they need to go figure out how to work things out. Those 2 people came at this time. There was another situation where we had the identified successor in a family business who could not collaborate or work effectively with someone else who had a key position on the senior leadership team. And those 2 came together to go through the class together. We also have human resources professionals who are scouting programs for their organization, and sometimes they will attend independently. So it's priced in a way that an entire leadership team can come. If you have a department that is just messed up and needs a lot of help, you can send a department. And you can consider coming as a leadership team in the beginning, and then perhaps the next year phasing in others from your group that need to be brought in. Judy and Jill, you have so much experience around this. Anything else you have to say around this topic? Who should attend?
Yeah, I was just noticing. Okay, I'll answer that, Judy. That question about, you know, should we bring the whole leadership team or who can benefit? Definitely any person individually could benefit. But as I was thinking about this, I was realizing that our testimonial group has always been the group that brought their whole leadership team, because I think there's something about having the whole team there, learning those skills and really getting a language together that helps bring that throughout. So yes, anybody can benefit, but you're going to see the most benefit from the whole team.
Leadership starts at the top, right? Judy, anything to add to that?
I just say I agree, and helping embed the skills. The difference about our classes is that it's not just kind of information that we're cramming in your brain, but it's skill-based, and you have to practice the skill in order to keep it. And so the nice thing about it is when there's even one other person from the organization that comes, is that you have someone else to keep using those skills with. So it definitely will benefit an individual but it amplifies the impact when you have someone else to keep using the skills with.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'd like to introduce David Miller. David Miller is the Director of New Member Engagement. David, you might want to unmute your line there. David takes the lead at the Goering Center on recruiting organizations into the Communication and Culture Institute. So I'm going to ask everybody else to go on mute so David has a quiet platform to share his the information he wants to get to everybody on the call today.
Real quick, Lisa, I just wanted to thank everybody for having us. We do have to run, so thank you guys. And if anybody has any questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out to Lisa if you want to get in contact with us. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, John. All right, thank you, Lisa. Judy and Jill, well done. I'm just going to try to put a bow on this really quickly. And one of the companies, Lisa, that went through this program was the Goering Center. Even we needed to kind of hone our skill sets. We were going through a lot of changes. So we found it to be so important that we went through it ourselves as a company. And I would say that the takeaways for me, and I think for the organization, were three. I think the importance of it is, one, it established a platform and a common ground and a language that all can kind of share in. So you're coming from the same place, using the same dialogue and some of the same skills. So that was really critical. I'd also say, this is one where you use it in your professional life, but just as well in your personal life. There are so many skills here that are transferable and just as important in those two worlds. And the third was, this is not a destination. This is a journey. This stuff is hard. And this is not something that you check off the list and you say, we've done it. But you're working on this every day. And so, it's this journey that you keep on working towards, and you learn and you make mistakes, but you're advancing the communications and keeping the company moving forward. So those are my takeaways from our experience itself. And it was really, really well done. And I'm not just saying that, but it was just, I thought it was really impactful and powerful. So, this is an environment that we're in that we haven't really had to face. And so, again, with every crisis, it exposes companies to their strengths and possible weaknesses. And so, I think everybody has to look at that and say, well, what did we do well? How well prepared were we with our, establishing our communication plan and how our culture was set up? Did we survive? The first was the pandemic start. How do you react to it? And now we're kind of pivoting towards how do we restart the business? All very different and requires a lot of skill sets. So, each company has to kind of reflect and say, were we in a good position? What could we have done better? And, if there were some gaps in your communication platform strategy, then, this is the right program for you. So anyhow, my 2 cents on that. But anyhow, I just want to say the Institute begins on August 18th. It is sessions that happen every 2 weeks, and they're half-day sessions. In the end, there is a one-on-one session with one of the advisors from Scroggins Greer, and registration is open now. So if there's some interest, and there may be some questions that are coming about as you start to think about all the information that was given today. And I would say, if you have questions, if things just start to kind of foment in your mind and you need some clarity on it, please contact Lisa or myself or anybody at the center. We'll try to give you, good direction on that so you can discern and make a good decision. So anyhow, the Institute itself is limited in size. So we've got 32 people max, and it depends on each company how many people they bring. But it's 32 people, really as a result of just trying to be safe and obeying the social distancing for everybody. So, and probably the most important thing is, well, how much does this cost? So the price, it's priced out for a leadership team in a group setting. So it's $5,000 for a team of 3. If you have others on the leadership team or in a role that has, they're managing people, then each additional person above 3 is $1,500. So it's pretty straightforward, but like I said, it's powerful. We're opening up registration. It's already opened up. And so if there's any questions, please feel free to call us.
Yeah, thank you, David. So at the end of the program, you'll be getting a link to this recording from me. In addition, there'll be a link to the registration page on our registration platform if you're ready to pull the trigger. And if you're not, like David said, just give us a call and talk us through. I want to reassure everybody that in this uncertain state, if the COVID kicks in again and we have another stay-at-home order issued or other unforeseen complications arise, that we are planning for an in-person event, an in-person live classroom series, but that can be easily switched over to a virtual event if that's necessary. So no worries there, and I assure you that every safety precaution will be taken. If you come to a live event, hence the cap on the number of people, we want to make sure there's good distance between our teams so everybody can feel comfortable and work safely together. I would like to have a special thank you for the team at Scroggins Grill, Jill and Judy. Thank you. Great job today. And for the folks at Bessler, I'm sure you're on your way already, but thank you so much for spending your morning with us today. That's it for now. We're going to sign off, but thank you, everybody, and have a super day. Have a good one. Bye-bye.